The crystalline towers of Centauri 9's capital city rose like jagged teeth against the alien sky, their translucent surfaces reflecting the twin suns in brilliant cascades of purple and gold. Within the largest of these spires, the Great Assembly Hall buzzed with the murmur of a dozen different languages as representatives from the major galactic empires gathered for what many hoped would be a historic peace summit. Dr. Raj Bennett adjusted his medical kit and checked his sidearm one final time. As the chief field medic assigned to the human delegation, his role was ostensibly to provide medical support. But in truth, everyone knew he was there as much for protection as for healing. The scars across his left temple, earned in the border wars of the Orion sector, marked him as a veteran despite his healing profession. The assembly hall itself was a marvel of architecture that seemed to defy physics. Floating platforms hovered at various levels, connected by bridges of solidified light. Representatives from 6 empires had gathered humans from the Earth Coalition, the insectoid Krex from the Outer Rim, the aquatic Narathi, who had brought portable atmosphere suits, the crystalline Zillar, who communicated through harmonic frequencies, the feline-like Vash, with their predatory grace, and finally, the Vazari. The Vazari delegation commanded attention through sheer presence. Tall humanoid, but distinctly alien with their elongated limbs and metallic-hued skin that seemed to shift between silver and bronze. They moved with an unsettling blend of grace and predatory purpose. Their culture valued strength above all else, and it showed in everything from their bearing to their ornate battle armor, worn even in diplomatic settings. Princess Thalara stood behind her father, Emperor Valdris, her own armor gleaming with royal insignia. Unlike the others, her armor bore fresh scratches, marks of honor Raj had been told earned in recent border skirmishes. Her eyes, an unusual amber color that seemed to glow with their own light, swept the room with the calculating gaze of a predator. The strength of an empire is measured not by the mercy it shows to the weak, but by the fear it instills in its enemies. She had declared during yesterday's preliminary discussions, causing several delegates to shift uncomfortably. When the human ambassador had countered with talk of compassion and cooperation, she had laughed a sound like grinding metal. Now, as Dr. Bennett observed from his position near the human delegation, he noted the complex dynamics at play. Tensions ran highest between the humans and Vazari, whose opposing philosophies created an almost tangible friction in the air. Yet today might mark the beginning of a new era of galactic cooperation. The Emperor of Vazari raised his hand, and the hall fell silent. "We gather today not as conquerors or conquered, but as civilizations seeking a path forward. The wars that have torn apart star systems must end. We must." The explosion came without warning. A brilliant flash of superheated plasma tore through the hall's eastern wall, sending debris and bodies flying. The elegant floating platforms shuddered and began to fall. Their power cores disrupted. Screams and the crackle of burning circuits filled the air as delegates scrambled for cover. Raj's medical training kicked in immediately. He dove behind an overturned negotiation table, then began moving toward the wounded. Through the chaos, he could see armed figures in unmarked combat suits pouring through the breach. Pirates. A rival faction. It didn't matter. People were hurt, and that meant he had work to do. He made his way toward a group of injured humans, applying emergency treatment as quickly as possible. The attackers seemed focused on creating chaos rather than targeting specific individuals, their weapons firing indiscriminately into the crowd. As he worked, Raj caught glimpses of the other delegation's responses. The Krex had formed a defensive cluster, their carapaces deflecting small arms fire. The Vash moved with deadly efficiency, their natural agility making them difficult targets. The Vazari delegation had been near the epicenter of the blast. Through the smoke, Raj could see Emperor Valderis directing his guards in a fighting retreat toward the emergency exits. But something was wrong with their formation. Someone was missing. A weak cry in an alien language drew his attention. Following the sound, he found Princess Thalara pinned beneath a fallen beam near the blast site. Her armor was cracked, and a pool of silver-blue blood, Vazari blood, spread beneath her left leg. Her amber eyes were clouded with pain. Raj looked around for her bodyguards, but saw only retreating figures. The Vazari delegation was pulling back, and they were leaving her behind. He could hear shouts in the Vazari language, but the words meant nothing to him. What he could understand was tone, and the tone suggested urgency, self-preservation, and abandonment. "Princess!" he called out, rushing toward her. She turned her head weakly, focusing on him with visible difficulty. "Human." She whispered the word, carrying a mix of surprise and disgust. "Why do you approach? The strong survive. The weak." She coughed, specks of silver blood staining her lips. "The weak are left behind." Raj ignored her words and began assessing her injuries. The beam across her leg was massive, clearly too heavy to lift alone. Her armor had protected her from the worst of the blast, but he could see multiple fractures in her left leg, signs of internal bleeding, and a head injury that explained her disorientation. "Your people," he said, working to stabilize her leg. "Where are your guards?" Thalara's laugh was bitter and weak. "Gone. As they should be. I am wounded. Weak. The Vazari code demands they preserve the strong." Her eyes focused on him with something like curiosity. "Why do you not run human? This makes no tactical sense." Another explosion rocked the hall closer this time. Raj could hear the distinctive whine of energy weapons approaching. Whatever forces were attacking the summit, they weren't done. He looked at the beam pinning Thalara, then at the medical equipment in his kit. With the right leverage and some temporary mobility aids, he might be able to move her, but it would be dangerous, difficult, and would certainly slow his own escape. The tactical part of his mind cataloged the risks. Thalara was from a hostile empire. Helping her could be seen as treason by some in the human military. Her own people had already abandoned her. Why should he risk his life for someone whose culture explicitly devalued the weak? But the doctor in him looked at a wounded being and saw only someone who needed help. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said, surprising both of them. He began unpacking his equipment. "Your guards might follow the strong survive mindset, but I took an oath to do no harm. That includes not letting you die when I can help." Thalara stared at him as if he were speaking an alien language, which in a sense, he was. The concept of helping without tactical advantage seemed to genuinely confuse her. Working quickly, Raj assembled a portable medical scanner and ran it over her injuries. The readings confirmed his initial assessment, serious but not immediately fatal if treated properly. The major problem was mobility. Her leg was broken in 3 places, and moving her incorrectly could cause permanent damage or worse. As he worked, the sounds of battle grew closer. Through the smoke, he could see the attackers methodically working their way through the hall, searching for something or someone. Their equipment looked military-grade, far too sophisticated for common pirates. "You should leave," Thalara said quietly. She had been watching him work with an expression he couldn't quite read. "I will not think less of you. By our standards, this compassion makes you weak. But..." She paused, wincing, as another wave of pain hit her. Perhaps the weak live longer than the proud dead. Raj prepared a painkiller injection. "Maybe, but I'm not leaving without you." He met her eyes. "I'm going to give you something for the pain, then we're getting out of here. This will help with the worst of it, but it might make you a little disoriented." She nodded slightly, and he administered the injection. As the medication took effect, some of the tension left her face. "Your people truly are as strange as we believed," she murmured. "In Vazari culture, aid is earned through strength or taken by force. This gift of help, we have no equivalent concept." While the painkiller worked, Raj fashioned a temporary splint for her leg and prepared a portable medical support unit. The device could maintain basic life support and monitor her vitals while they moved, but it was bulky and would slow them down considerably. Can you move your upper body? He asked. She tested her arms and torso, grimacing. Yes, though it hurts. The armor absorbed much of the impact. Good. I'm going to get this beam off you, then we need to move quickly. The building's structural integrity is compromised. Even if the attackers don't find us, this place could come down. Using a combination of leverage tools from his medical kit and some debris as a fulcrum, Raj slowly lifted the beam enough for Thalara to drag herself free. The process was agonizing for both of them, her from the pain of movement, him from the physical strain of manipulating the massive piece of metal. Once free, he immediately went to work properly, splinting her leg and adjusting the medical support unit to her physiology. Vazari biology was similar enough to human that his equipment could adapt, but there were differences he had to account for. Why? She asked again as he worked. Your empire and mine have been enemies for decades. I have personally commanded attacks against human colonies. You could let me die and claim it was unfortunate, but unavoidable. Raj finished securing the splint and looked up at her. Maybe because if we keep thinking of each other as enemies instead of people, this war will never end. Someone has to take the first step toward something different. An explosion much closer than before made the decision for them. A section of the ceiling collapsed, and through the gap, Raj could see armed figures descending on rappelling lines. Time to go, he said, activating the medical support unit. The device hummed to life, immediately beginning to monitor and adjust her vital signs. This will help, but moving is still going to hurt. Everything hurts, Thalara replied, with what might have been dark humor. Such is the way of the weak. Raj fashioned a makeshift stretcher from debris and carefully moved her onto it. The medical support unit attached to her armor, its various tubes and sensors, monitoring her condition and administering medication as needed. He rigged a harness system that would let him drag the stretcher while keeping his hands free. As they began to move, more explosions rocked the building. The attack wasn't random. The terrorists, or whoever they were, had specific targets. The way they moved, the precision of their equipment, suggested military training and significant resources. The fastest route to the emergency exits had been blocked by debris, forcing Raj to navigate through service corridors. The building's emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie red glow, and the constant rumble of explosions made conversation difficult. The escape pods, Thalara said during a brief pause. Emergency level Section 7. Each delegation has dedicated escape systems. Raj consulted his mental map of the building. Section 7 was on the opposite side from where they'd started, but it would be their best bet for getting off planet quickly. The problem was getting there while lugging medical equipment and a wounded alien princess. As they moved through the corridors, Raj began to understand just how alien Thalara's mindset really was. When he paused to catch his breath, she seemed genuinely puzzled by his fatigue. In Vazari military doctrine, she explained, the wounded are left at rally points for recovery teams. Active soldiers do not slow themselves for the injured unless those injured can maintain pace. And if recovery teams can't reach them, then they died with honor serving the strong. Her tone suggested this was so obvious it hardly needed stating. Yet you carry me slowing yourself, reducing your own survival chances. This weakness, it confuses me. Raj resumed pulling the stretcher, feeling the strain in his back and shoulders. Maybe what you call weakness, we call strength. Strength isn't just about individual survival, it's about what we're willing to do for others. A sound echoed through the corridor behind them. Footsteps and voices speaking in urgent tones. The attackers were closing in. We need to move faster, Raj said. The medical readouts on Thalara's support unit showed her vitals were stable but not improving. The emergency medications could only do so much. They reached a junction where multiple corridors met. Raj checked his position indicator, then chose the path that should lead most directly towards Section 7. As they moved, he noticed something odd about the attack. Despite the chaos and destruction, the terrorists seemed to be avoiding certain areas of the building, almost as if they knew exactly where they wanted to cause damage and where to avoid. "Princess," he said carefully, "is there anything special about this peace summit? Anything that might make someone want to target it specifically?" Thalara was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful. "Many things. Trade agreements worth billions. Territory disputes being resolved. But also," she paused, "there are those within each empire who profit from war. Peace threatens their power. The implications hung in the air between them. This wasn't a random terrorist attack. It was sabotage, possibly from within one or more of the delegations themselves. They reached Section 7 to find portions of it heavily damaged. Several explosion points were clearly visible, and the emergency pods for most delegations had been systematically destroyed. Only the human and Vazari emergency systems seemed to have escaped major damage. "Interesting pattern," Raj muttered, examining the destruction. Someone had very specifically wanted to eliminate certain escape routes while leaving others intact. Thalara's medicator beeped, drawing his attention. Her pain management system was showing concerning readings. The initial medications were wearing off, and her body was starting to reject the human adaptations he'd made to the equipment. "We need to get you proper medical care soon," he said. "This is just keeping you stable." "The Vazari emergency system has medical facilities," she said, pointing weakly toward a sealed door marked with Vazari script. "But the biometric locks. Only Vazari royalty or high military command can access them." Raj looked at her, then at the door. "Can you open it?" "If the system still recognizes me." She seemed amused by something. "Of course, by my people's standards, I am already dead. The code of strength demands they consider me lost and move on. Using royal access after being officially abandoned, it would be a violation of our most fundamental laws." "Do it anyway," Raj said without hesitation. "Laws that tell you to abandon wounded people aren't worth following." Something shifted in Thalara's expression at those words. She activated a device on her armor, and the door responded with a series of complex tones. After a moment, it slid open to reveal the Vazari escape pod system. The escape pod was a marvel of alien engineering, a sleek, organic-looking craft that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. Most importantly, it contained sophisticated medical equipment designed specifically for Vazari physiology. As Raj carefully transferred Thalara from the makeshift stretcher to the pod's medical bay, he noticed the equipment automatically adjusting to her species. Sensors deployed, scanning her injuries with precision his field kit could never match. Within moments, the system began administering treatments far more advanced than anything he could provide. "Better?" he asked, as color began returning to her metallic skin. "Much?" She looked at the readings with professional interest. Bone reconstruction nanites, tissue regeneration, accelerants, neural pathway stabilizers. It will take time, but I will fully recover." That was when they heard the voices outside, multiple people speaking in Vazri, approaching fast. Raj tensed, readying his weapon, but Thalara held up a hand. "Wait," she whispered, listening intently. Her expression darkened as she parsed the words. "What are they saying?" "They're looking for me," she said quietly. "But these aren't my guards coming to rescue me." Her eyes hardened. "They're here to finish what the terrorists started." The bitter emphasis she put on terrorists made Raj's blood run cold. "You know them." "I recognize the voice." Talara's hands moved across the control panel with unexpected speed and precision. "My brother Vizoth. He leads the military faction that opposed this peace summit. They believe war makes us strong, peace makes us weak. Your own brother ordered the attack." "Not just ordered." Her fingers danced across alien controls as the pod systems responded. "Planned it." The random terrorist attack, the strategic pattern of damage, the abandoned royal daughter who could have spoken against him. She met Raj's eyes. This was never about stopping the peace talks. This was about eliminating me and anyone else who believed the Vazari could change. The voices grew closer. Through the pod's sensors, They could see figures approaching Vazari soldiers in elite guard armor. Raj moved toward the hatch controls. We need to launch this thing now. Wait! Talara grabbed his arm with surprising strength. If we launch and they see us, they'll shoot us down before we clear the atmosphere. They're using military spacecraft. We won't outrun them. Then what do you suggest? She was quiet for a moment, thinking. There's another way. The pod has stealth capabilities, but activating them means shutting down most systems, including life support. We'd have to hibernate during transit. Hibernate for how long? Unknown. The pod could find a safe landing site anywhere within 3 star systems. Could be days, could be weeks. She looked at him seriously. And there's something else. Shared hibernation pools require significant trust. Our minds would be linked throughout the process. Before Raj could ask what that meant, the first soldiers reached the door. Thalara's finger hovered over the stealth activation control. Do it, Raj said without hesitation. You don't understand. When Vazari share hibernation, we share everything. Memories, thoughts, experiences. You'll see exactly what I am, what I've done. The colonies that I've attacked, the humans I've killed. Her voice carried deep pain. I am not a good person by your standards, Doctor. The soldiers outside began working on the door locks. They had perhaps 30 seconds. Neither of us is perfect, Raj said. But right now, we need to trust each other. And maybe understanding each other is exactly what we need. Thalara held his gaze for a long moment, then activated the stealth systems. The pod went dark, then began to reconfigure itself. 2 hibernation chambers extended from the floor, filled with a silvery liquid that seemed to shift and flow with its own purpose. The neural linking will begin as soon as we enter hibernation, she explained quickly. You'll experience my memories as if they were your own, and I yours. She paused. There's something else. Vazari hibernation involves vulnerability, total vulnerability. In our culture, sharing hibernation is the ultimate expression of trust. It's more intimate than anything else we do. The door began to buckle under the soldiers' efforts. Raj looked at the hibernation chamber, then at Thalara. Let's do it. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. They entered the chamber simultaneously. The silvery liquid was warm, supporting their bodies as systems engaged around them. Raj felt sensors attaching to his skin, neural interfaces activating. Remember, Thalara said, her voice growing distant. What you're about to experience, it's who I was, not necessarily who I am becoming. Consciousness faded, and then Raj was elsewhere. He was standing on the bridge of a Vazari warship, commanding the final assault on Kepler-2. The human colony below had refused to surrender, and military doctrine demanded a decisive response. Through Thalara's memories, he felt her struggle with the orders, her duty to her empire warring with something deeper. But duty won as it always did. The bombardment was precise, clinical. Infrastructure targets only initially minimizing civilian casualties. But when the humans continued to resist, escalation was necessary. Always escalation. The Vazari way demanded overwhelming force to maintain the appearance of strength. He felt her horror as reports came in of civilian casualties, felt her questioning the orders even as she carried them out, and worst of all, felt her pride in her efficiency. The conflict between what she felt she should think and what she actually believed. Other memories flowed past. Her childhood in the Imperial Palace, where strength was rewarded and vulnerability punished. Training sessions where showing mercy was seen as dangerous weakness. The day she first killed in battle, and how her father's pride meant more to her than the life she'd taken. But there were other moments too. Times when she'd bent the rules to protect wounded enemies. Secret orders she'd given to minimize civilian casualties. Small acts of mercy disguised as tactical necessities. As the hibernation deepened, the flow of shared experience intensified. Raj found himself living through battles from both human and Vazari perspectives, seeing the same conflicts through enemy eyes. The humans he'd tried to save in field hospitals, Thalara had tried not to kill in the first place, and she experienced his memories in return. His first day as a combat medic, terrified but determined to help. The nights he'd stayed awake treating wounded soldiers, human and alien alike. The times he'd risked his life to save enemies, not because they deserved it, but because it was right. She felt his moment of doubt too, the time he'd hesitated before treating a Vazari prisoner, wrestling with the knowledge that this enemy had probably killed humans he'd known. And she felt his shame at that hesitation and his resolution to be better. Time became meaningless in the hibernation. They dreamed each other's nightmares, shared each other's worst moments of moral compromise. But they also shared moments of hope, times when both had tried to build bridges across the gap between their peoples. When consciousness finally returned, they were on a planet neither recognized. The escape pod had landed in a clearing surrounded by alien forest, its stealth systems maintaining invisibility even now. Raj emerged from hibernation. First, his body stiff and disoriented. The shared experience left him feeling strange, as if he carried additional memories that weren't quite his own. He looked over at Thalara, who was sitting up slowly in her chamber. "How long?" she asked. Raj checked the pod's systems. 3 weeks. We're in the Trianguli system's second planet. The pod's automated systems found this site and determined it was safe. They looked at each other in silence for a moment. The intimacy of shared hibernation was unlike anything either had experienced. They knew each other now in ways that were almost uncomfortable. "I'm sorry," Thalara said quietly. "For Kepler too. For all of it." "I know." And he did know. He'd felt her regret her conflict, the way duty had overridden conscience. "Just like you know, I'm sorry for the times I couldn't save someone because they were Vazari, and I let fear slow me down." The pod's systems chimed, indicating external activity. Through the sensors, they could see local wildlife investigating their landing site. The creatures looked harmless enough, 6-legged herbivores that moved in graceful bounds between the trees. "We should scout the area," Raj said. "The pod can maintain stealth, but we need to know what's out there." Thalara tested her leg. The advanced Vazari medical systems had done their work well. She could walk through with a slight limp. "I can move. My armor's combat systems are still functional." They exited the pod, carefully weapons ready. The forest was beautiful in an alien way. Trees with crystalline bark that chimed softly in the wind, flowers that seemed to pulse with internal light. But beauty could hide danger. As they moved away from the pod, Raj noticed something odd. These readings: atmospheric composition, gravity, even plant chemistry. This planet is remarkably similar to both Earth and Vezaris Prime. "Too similar," Thalara agreed, "as if it were designed to be inhabitable by both species." They were discussing this impossibility when the first shot came. Energy blasts seared past them, scorching the strange trees. More followed quickly. Multiple shooters positioned in a classic ambush formation. "Move!" Raj shouted, diving left as Thalara rolled right. They'd discussed tactical coordination during their planning, but now those shared hibernation memories meant they moved almost as one mind. Their attackers wore environmental suits that obscured their identity, but their equipment was clearly military and familiar. "Vazari combat gear," Thalara called out as they took cover. "Modified, but definitely ours." "Then they followed us." "Impossible, the stealth systems should have..." She paused as more shots rang out. "Unless someone wanted us to reach this location." Raj processed that while returning fire. A trap, but by who? Their answer came from above. A spacecraft descended through the canopy, its design unlike anything from the known empires. As it landed, a boarding ramp extended and figures emerged. The first was clearly Vazari, tall metallic skin, the bearing of military command. But there were others with him. Humans, Krex, even what looked like a Vash representative. "Sister!" the lead Vazari called out. Even through his environmental suit, Raj could hear the smirk in his voice. Still alive, I see. How wonderfully resilient. Vazoth. Thalara's voice carried a mixture of anger and resignation. I should have known. The peace summit, the attack bringing us here, it's all been your plan. Our plan, Vazoth corrected, gesturing to his diverse group of followers. War profiteers exist in every empire, dear sister. While you and the other idealists talked of peace, we prepared for more practical solutions. Raj kept his weapon trained on the group, but didn't fire. They were outnumbered, and he was curious to hear more. Practical solutions, Thalara asked. This planet, Vazoth explained, was discovered 3 months ago. Perfectly habitable for multiple species, resource-rich and completely unclaimed. We've formed a consortium representatives from various military-industrial factions across the empires. Peace would have made this opportunity worthless. But now you'll claim it through military force, Raj finished. One of the humans in the group stepped forward. Not just claim it, Doctor. This planet will serve as a base of operations for our coalition of necessity. While the empires waste resources on peace talks, we'll build a real power base. And I was supposed to die in the attack on Centauri 9, Thalara said, understanding dawning. Eliminate anyone who might oppose war profiteering. Make it look like enemy action. You were always too soft, sister. Too willing to consider alternatives to strength. Vazoth's weapon never wavered. But your death by terrorist action would have convinced even father that peace was impossible. Raj felt rage building. How many died in that attack? How many people killed just to advance your political agenda? Acceptable losses, the Vazari prince replied coldly. The strong survive, the weak serve their purpose. What happened next surprised everyone, including Raj. Thalara laughed, a genuine sound of mirth that seemed entirely inappropriate to the situation. Brother, she said, you understand so little about true strength. Zoth's expression shifted to puzzlement, then anger. Explain yourself. 3 weeks of shared hibernation, she said, looking meaningfully at Raj. Full mental linking with a human who exemplifies everything we've been taught is weakness. And do you know what I learned? I tire of your riddles. I learned that compassion isn't weakness. It's the ultimate expression of strength. It takes far more courage to help an enemy than to destroy them. And I learned that the strong don't abandon the wounded. They carry them. She shifted slightly, and Raj noticed her hand moving toward her armor's controls. Whatever she was planning, he needed to be ready. The human concept of strength encompasses things we've never considered, she continued. Not just individual power, but collective resilience. Not just victory over enemies, but the ability to turn enemies into allies. Enough philosophy, Vazoth snapped. You're both going to die here. This planet will fuel decades of profitable conflict, and anyone who threatens that future must be eliminated. Like you eliminated the innocents at the Peace Summit. Like I did what was necessary. Vazoth's facade of control cracked slightly. The weak deserve their fate. At that moment, Thalara activated her armor's combat enhancement systems and moved. But instead of attacking her brother's forces, she dove toward Raj. The pod, she shouted. Emergency combat configuration. Raj understood immediately. As they ran, Thalara spoke a rapid sequence of commands in Vazari. Behind them, the cloaked escape pod revealed itself and transformed its sleek surface, unfolding into weapons platforms and shield generators. Vazoth's forces opened fire, but the pod's defenses held. Energy shields deflected most shots, while automated systems began targeting their attackers. How long can it hold? Raj asked as they reached the pod's protective barrier. Depends on their firepower. But Vazari combat pods aren't designed for extended engagements. Thalara was working at a control interface that had extended from the pod's hull. We need to end this quickly. The diverse group attacking them had spread out using the forest for cover. Their coordination was impressive. Clearly, they'd worked together before. The mixed Empire coalition, Raj said, realization striking. How long has this been planned? Years probably. Long enough to identify like-minded individuals across multiple empires, long enough to prepare this planet as a base. Thalara finished her inputs, and the pod's offensive systems came fully online. They're essentially creating a mercenary state funded by war profiteering and using peace talks to eliminate opposition. Exactly. The battle was fierce but brief. The pod's automated systems were sophisticated, but their enemies had come prepared. Vizu AI's forces had equipment designed specifically to counter Vazari technology. As the pod's shields began to fail, Raj made a decision. "Cover me," he said, and sprinted toward the attack force. It was probably a stupid move, definitely dangerous. But watching Vizoth's callous discussion of the Peace Summit deaths had activated something in him that wasn't entirely rational. He reached the first position before the shooter could react, using his momentum to tackle the armored figure. Up close, he could see it was one of the humans from the consortium. They struggled briefly before Raj managed to stun him with his weapon. "Doctor," Thalara's voice carried warning. Raj looked up to see Vizoth himself approaching, weapon raised. But instead of firing, the Vazari prince spoke. "Tell me something human. Do you really believe your weakness philosophy can create lasting peace? Or are you simply naive?" "I believe," Raj said, not lowering his weapon, "that anything is better than profiting from needless death." "Needless," Vizoth laughed. "War drives evolution, demands excellence, eliminates the unfit. Peace breeds stagnation. Peace breeds cooperation. It lets people build something better than what came before." Their philosophical argument was interrupted by another voice, Thalara speaking from the pod. "Brothers?" she said, and something in her tone made both men freeze. "I challenge you." In Vazari culture, that phrase had specific ritualistic meaning. Vizoth's expression shifted to surprising calculation. "You invoke the right of strength here now." "I do. Single combat, ancient rules, winner takes all." Raj looked between them, not understanding the cultural implications, but recognizing the gravity of the moment. "If I win," Vizoth said slowly, "you die and your human dies with you. Our consortium claims this planet and continues our necessary work. And if I eaten," Thalara countered, "you and your allies leave this system and abandon your war profiteering schemes. Sister, you're wounded, your leg will either be strong enough or it won't." She stepped out from behind the pod's barrier, her stance confident despite the slight limp. "Do you accept?" Zoth considered for a long moment. Around them, the fighting gradually stopped as the other consortium members realized what was happening. "I accept," he said finally. "Ancient rules. No armor, no advanced weapons, blade and strength." Both siblings began removing their armor, revealing the lean, powerful forms beneath. Vizoth was larger, clearly stronger, but Thalara moved with a precision that suggested superior training. "Wait," Raj said. "There has to be another way. This doesn't need to end with one of you dead." Both Vazari looked at him with expressions that might have been pity. "You still don't understand," Thalara said gently. "This is how we resolve true conflicts. It's our oldest law. And perhaps," she glanced at her brother, "perhaps it's time our oldest laws decided the fate of our newest conflicts." They drew the traditional Vazari combat blades, elegant weapons that looked like crystallized energy given form. The clearing around them took on the atmosphere of an arena. The fight was savage and beautiful. Vizoth had raw power and reach, pressing his attack with brutal efficiency. But Thalara fought differently than before their shared hibernation. She moved with a fluid grace that incorporated elements Raj recognized as human martial techniques, adaptations from his own memories of combat training. More than that, she fought with something she'd never shown before, the strength of someone fighting for others, rather than just for victory. When Vizoth overextended himself, going for a killing blow, Thalara was there. Her blade found the gap in his guard, sliding between his ribs to pierce his heart. The Prince of Vazari fell, and with him centuries of tradition. But as he died, Vizoth spoke words that chilled them all. You think this ends here? We are not the only ones who profit from war. Others will come. Others will find ways to turn species against each other. His eyes focused on Raj with surprising intensity. Your peace, human. It will be harder to build than you imagine. Then he was gone, and silence fell over the clearing. The consortium members looked uncertain without their leader. The human who'd spoken before stepped forward. The challenge is concluded. By Vazari law, Prince Vizoth's obligations pass to Princess Thalara. Then I discharge those obligations, Thalara said formally. This planet is neutral territory. Anyone who wishes to make war here makes war on the Vazari Empire itself. One by one, the consortium members activated personal teleportation devices and departed. Within minutes, only Raj and Thalara remained with the fallen prince. I'm sorry, Raj said quietly. Thalara knelt beside her brother's body. He chose his path, as I have chosen mine. She looked up at Raj, but Vizoth was right about one thing. Building true peace will be harder than imagining it. Then we'd better get started. They spent the next several hours preparing for departure. The pod's systems had detected several orbiting ships, some consortium vessels retreating, others arriving. Among the newcomers were human and Vazari military craft. When the rescue ships landed, they brought news. The attack on the Peace Summit had failed to achieve its political goals. Instead of fracturing the alliance between empires, it had galvanized them. Evidence discovered at the scene had revealed the conspiracy leading to a massive investigation that was dismantling war profiteering operations across multiple worlds. The peace talks, Admiral Chen of the Human Coalition explained, are resuming Fun Week on Neural Station, and this time they have something they didn't have before. What's that? Raj asked. A shared enemy. Nothing unites former enemies like discovering they've both been manipulated by profiteers. The Admiral looked between Raj and Thalara. There's something else. Both empires want Princess Thalara to speak at the new talks. Her unique perspective could be valuable. Thalara glanced at Raj, a small smile playing at her lips. My perspective has certainly changed recently. There's one more thing, Admiral Chen continued. This planet, the consortium, has been using it as a testing ground for new weapons. We're not sure if it's safe for habitation. I volunteered to stay and make sure it's secure, Raj said. Someone needs to study the ecosystem, make sure it hasn't been contaminated or weaponized. An excellent idea, Thalara said. And as the Vazari representative who claimed this world, I should oversee that process. The Admiral looked between them with something like understanding. I see. Well, we can provide supplies and support staff, but the initial survey could take months. Months of learning to understand a new world, Raj mused. Learning how different species might coexist peacefully. An important experiment, Thalara agreed. As the military vessels departed, leaving them with supplies and equipment for a long-term stay, Raj and Thalara stood at the edge of their clearing. The alien forest stretched out before them, mysterious and full of possibilities. So, Raj said, what do we do first? We build something new, Thalara replied. We prove that former enemies can become allies. And maybe, if we're very lucky, we'll discover that compassion really is stronger than conquest. They began walking into the forest together, a human doctor and a Vazari princess carrying each other forward into an uncertain but hopeful future. Behind them, the escape pod stood sentinel, a symbol of how far they had come from those desperate moments when he'd chosen to help a wounded enemy. The planet around them hummed with life, alien and wonderful. And in that life, they began to see the possibility of something new, a place where the strong didn't abandon the weak, where different species could learn from each other, where peace wasn't weakness, but the ultimate show of strength. It would be difficult. Vizoth had been right about that. Building peace was harder than waging war. But as they explored their new world together, sharing discoveries, and overcoming challenges as a team, they began to believe it might actually be possible. After all they'd already proven that enemies could become allies, now they just had to do the same thing on a galactic scale. The forest welcomed them, and whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to abandon those who need your help even if they used to be your enemy. Especially then,